Steve, thanks very much for joining me today. I'm really grateful that you're doing this for myself and my team and all our clients and those who follow us. For those of you who don't know Steve Tabrizi, he's the Chief Operating Officer for the Hallmark Group of Companies. He is really on a 10x journey that I'm happy to be, a cheerleader for, where he's built and continuing to grow with the leadership team at Hallmark, an incredible company. You're a visionary, Steve. We appreciate your guidance and mentorship. And for those of you watching, the thing about Steve that I really like is he's a no BS kind of leader. And when it comes to the market, I get the real data, I get the real insight. I don't get a rosy picture, I get a real picture. And Steve, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ravi, for inviting me, and thank you for your kind words. I certainly don't deserve it. I always see our growth and our success are based on a team approach, and I'm blessed to have you in our team, Connexus team. It's been a tremendous joy for me to watch you, how you grow from an individual agent to build this very successful team among the GTA Realtor.
Appreciate it, Steve. So, if we're looking at the start of 2021, today is January 7th, and it's the first kind of business week for a lot of people getting back after the holidays, and a lot of people are concerned about where this market's going to go. So, if you were to describe the 2021 real estate market in, let's say, 3 to 4 words, what would be the words that you would give to the market?
Very interesting question. I would start with the first word, shocking. Second word, I would call it uncertainty. And a third word, I would say we were blessed.
Fair
Blessed.
enough. So that's really interesting. So why don't we start? Uncertainty I've got, shocking I've got. Why don't you tell us what you think about using the word blessed?
Well, I think overall, the Canadian population, Canadian consumers, and even our industry, if you want to look at it, we were blessed. We live in a society, although we have a multi-tiers of the governing body, but one thing that I was very much impressed, contrary to many other countries, many other developed countries, all multi-level of our governing bodies, from the city to province to the federal, irrelevant of the what flag they were wearing, irrelevant of the ruling parties on opposition, they really collectively they came together.
Yeah.
Canadian overall, they did a great job. They followed the protocol, they protected each other, they protected the community, they were giving back to the community. And as much as, yes, we have to acknowledge that many families, they suffered, many families, they lost loved ones. But overall, in a unprecedented conditions, we really did well. And that's why I call it we're blessed. We're blessed that we call each other Canadian. We're blessed that we live in such a wonderful diversity. We are blessed that we live in a society that there is a respect, there is love, there is caring, and there is compassion.
Very good words. I agree wholeheartedly. This has been a challenging year, 2020 to say the least. But overall, I remember Barack Obama saying that the U.S. should look at what Canada is doing as just a better example of how to manage the pandemic. So let's talk about the pandemic. A lot of people are concerned about the unemployment. A lot of people are concerned about the service industry, the retail industry, the hospitality industry, many places getting really negatively affected by the pandemic. How do you think that will play out in terms of the GTA real estate market?
Okay, so let's acknowledge in any crisis, yes, this is probably one of the rare mankind crisis that nobody ever expected. But one thing from the beginning of the pandemic that I firmly believed, and I think that was the notion among the Canadian society and even the global society, that there will be an end to this pandemic. Although it was many uncertainties, but everybody was looking for that light at the end of the tunnel, which is basically the vaccine, the rollout of the vaccine. In any crisis, there will be small businesses, there will be large businesses, there will be consolidation, there will be merger, there will be bankruptcies. So there will be always a negative side effect in terms of our economy. Fortunately, what happened, it was a right decision by the federal government in terms of stimulus packages. Many people probably criticize the federal government in terms of overspending, in terms of not monitoring the stimulus packages, in terms of not qualifying people who applied for CERB, for commercial rent relief, you name it, all the areas that the federal government announced. The truth is this, even federal government never faced, even politician, even expert, even the society within, even the expert and the people who are at the helm of the rolling out these benefit and these packages, they really had only one duty to do. The duty was, how can we calm the society? How can we give assurance to the society that we are behind you? That was the role number one. And the Canadian government did it perfectly. That caused that many Canadian, many employers, many employees, they could hold their jobs. Yes, there are hospitality business, travel industry, small businesses, retail, they suffered. But if you look at it, even for hospitality business, retail businesses, many of them are holding to their, let's per se call it their store, their business, because there are programs such as the commercial rent relief. Are they making money that putting the bread on the table? Maybe minimum wages they are making. Maybe they had to let go 3 of their staff at the restaurant. Maybe the restaurant owner is becoming a staff, is becoming a cook and doing even the deliveries. But the truth is they are surviving. And if you look at the rate of the unemployment, sometimes around May of the 2020, it was a 3 million unemployed people. We went to pandemic pre-COVID with 5.5% unemployment rate, which is basically, as far as the number wise, is about 1 million Canadian before COVID, they were unemployed. The number went all the way to 3 million, almost 16%. As of November, the December data for unemployment is not out yet. We are back to about 9% in Ontario. That means 2 million people, they went back to their work. I am optimistic that we probably will recuperate another 200,000 people go back to their job. We will not be setting at about a 5.5 million. We probably will be, for a while in 2021, we'll be at about 6.5 to about 7.5. But with any crisis, there are also other opportunities. Look at what's going to happen to the society in terms of the unemployment. They hold all of us back. They said, don't go shopping, don't go restaurant, don't travel, don't do the socializing concept of our lifestyle. So what do you think is going to happen in the middle of the May and July? And hopefully by that time, the roll of the vaccine, it gives much more confidence to the society. You will see overspending of the consumers because now they got tremendous saving during 2020 because they didn't have the opportunity to spend the money that they earned. So overspending, usually what it does, it creates jobs, it creates employment, and it grows the economy. So I'm not really worried about that. And that overspending and a growth of the economy, of course, it will impact the real estate industry.
Sure, absolutely. I hear you loud and clear. And the fact that the unemployment has come back down from its peak at 16% is encouraging. I have one more question related to government and related to the stimulus. How do you feel about the government incurring this type of annual deficit and running this type of debt to keep the stimulus going during the pandemic? And how will that play out?
So I always look at the government as a large, complex corporation. It's a business. If we were the only country among our global society that running that kind of deficit, so of course we will be at the disadvantage point in terms of trades, in terms of exchange with the other partners. It's a global pandemic. Every developed country from Europe to North America going to have that deficit. Yes, as much as I loved it, but also I have to also keep in mind that the younger generation, my children, your children, will have to some degree going to pay for it. And it's going to be through probably the services fees. It's going to be probably through the taxes, and it's going to be probably through creating infrastructure and more job. And also one of the areas that Canada is well known globally by attracting immigrants, that they bring wealth and asset to Canada. We will be in deficit for sure for at least probably I would foresee anywhere between 5 to 7 years. And the terminology of the balance of the book from the government perspective, it's always for me, it's a really a suspicious word. How do they balance the book? Because an accountant can talk about the account receivable and account payable, and at the end of the day, they say the book is balanced. Is the book is going to be ever balanced? Or even prior to the COVID, many of the books that were balanced, I doubt it. So the society will survive. The Canadian government will survive. This is not the first rodeo in terms of the deficit. And the question becomes also this: do we blame them they did this? I personally, as a Canadian citizen, I don't blame them, because if I was in their shoes, I would do the same thing right now. Spending provide the confidence to the society. Confidence to the society will stop of the crash of the economy. Period. Simple formula.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the topic of everyone running a deficit, this is sort of the last um, macro idea I want to talk about. Then I want to talk about certain neighborhoods and market segments. But we're seeing just complete chaos in our largest trading partner, which is the U.S. And I'm just curious how you feel. The challenges that the U.S. how they're what they're going through. And the sort of mismanagement by their leadership, how that may affect us here in Canada.
Well, it is the word around uncertainty. So if you got a largest business partner for Canada, which is US, imagine as a leader of a country, every morning you're waking up and if you want to make a proper proactive discussion with your partner, but your partner is constantly has been an unreasonable bullying strategy. That's what the current, hopefully another 10 more days of the Donald Trump era will be over in US, has caused not only against Canada, even against the European partners. For sure, the change of the leadership in US, even from perspective of the uncertainty and confidence, and at least starting a dialogue, will bring positivity to the stock market, to the real estate market, to the overall economy. Now, as of the January 20th, you realize, okay, I got a partner. I got one of the largest global players, second largest economic engine force in the global market, that I can have a dialogue, I can have a discussion. That's by itself, it brings certainty rather than uncertainty to the economy. And I see the change in US very positive. US, unfortunately, what Donald Trump did in the last 4 years, it's basically tarnished the reputation of the US in terms of predictability, in terms of the belief, in terms of the structure in the governing body of the United States. So many European and even Canada perhaps is thinking further for the next generation of how they want to deal with this partner. And which is a good wake-up call, I think, for Canada and for many European countries. Our dependence to the United States for years, I believe, Canada is center of the innovation, technology, design, research, but we really need to focus now on a middle-class manufacturers. We cannot, unfortunately, compete on a larger scale manufacturer due to the labor forces, due to the labor costs, due to the taxation system that we have. But if we are the creator of the ideas and a design and innovation, we should be able to have a middle-sized manufacturer flourish in Canada, and we can be on a global competitive market.
Fair enough. So, you know what, Steve, we talked about the pandemic, the virus, the deficit, the unemployment, the government, and trade with the US. I want to shift a little bit now. So, now I want to talk about some trends that we're seeing in the GTA, in the city, in the suburbs. One of the things that we've seen on my team quite a bit is a bit of an exodus. So people who have been living in, very nice lofts in the city, condos in Liberty Village, condo townhomes in, the downtown core, or let's say a neighborhood like Leslieville, we're seeing them start to move. And we're seeing people find that they want that sort of suburban space, especially with work from home. How do you think that might develop as a trend, or maybe reverse as a trend in 2021?
So COVID has some also positive consequences. One of the positive consequences with the COVID was families, people, individual realize their priorities. Life is too short. So what is my priorities? That's one aspect. Second aspect of the positive of the COVID was employers have realized this is a plan that was supposed to happen perhaps probably 5 or 10 years from now. Many employers constantly, they were looking at how they can reduce the cost of their operation, which is mostly related to the premises and meaning work at home. At the beginning of the pandemic, Abacus Data did a survey, and 70% of the Canadian employees, they said they will take a $10,000 annual cut as long as they can work from home. But after being at home for almost 7-8 months, the human elements realized that I'm missing that social interaction. So the second survey, which was done in November, they said, look, I don't mind to work from the office, but as long as I have an option of maybe 1 day a week or 2 days a week work from home. So this is the second element, which is related to the first element of the priorities. Then it comes to the third element, that Canadian and Torontonian, perhaps, they have realized the short lifespan of this pandemic. They are realizing eventually we go back to the normal life. And the city of Toronto, for the last 10-15 years, it has become a mega cosmopolitan city and is one of the cities on a global map. So meaning those people that they were smart, they bought condominium a few years ago, downtown Toronto, midtown Toronto, or in Toronto, and majority of them are millennial. Millennial are the oldest millennial is about 38 years old. They basically are at the earliest stage of our creation of the family. They're married, they have children, and they're saying, okay, I built a nice wealth and asset now with my mini condos, mini loft. And they have also accepted one other fact, Ravi, transportation. We fought for years. We raised our concerns about the lack of the transportation. Fortunately, in the last 3 years, the city and the province and the federal, they have put the money and infrastructure into the transportation. Is it going at the speed that we expect? No, but it's happening. So all these elements combined, people are saying, okay, I better cash out of my assets from the Toronto and I go to the suburbs, because the dream of the white picket fence, double car garage does exist in the Canadian home bucket list. Is it means that basically the condo market or the loft or condo style living is going to be gone? Absolutely not, because it's a cycle of the generation. Now you got the next generation that they basically want to have that trendy loft, cool condo accessibility in downtown. So it's a cycle, and that's the beauty of the real estate in Toronto, in Ontario, in Canada. When the condo is flourishing, and then suddenly you see at some point it goes back towards the freehold, semi, and townhouse, and then it comes back.
Yes.
And one of the key elements for our growth has been immigration. So there will be the newcomers going to come. The newcomers, by the time it settles, they want to rent a condo, and then they will buy a condo and then move up, and the same thing is going to happen. But one thing for sure happens during the last 2 years, finally in Canada, instead of the focus of only be on Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, 3 largest mega city, the Canadian, they have realized that, which is why I call it interprovincial migration, that Let's move to Ottawa. Let's move to Barrie, Simcoe County. Let's move to Durham. Let's move to Kitchener-Waterloo. And it has caused great business employment and opportunities in the smaller urban.
So Steve, it's interesting because my business, I'm very fortunate that I get to work in both the suburban and the urban market, almost an even split. We joke about that every now and then, that my focus is kind of split in two. If you were to say that there's a pocket of the GTA where you think will have the highest uh, appreciation this year, where do you think that may be?
Two pocket, Durham region. And one of the reasons for Durham is that Durham, I related to transportation and accessibility. It's entire Durham, Pickering, Ajax, Whitby is along the Highway 401. And then we still have the GO train, which is really get you right to the downtown core very fast. Then the second area, I would say Simcoe County. And both area, similar accessibility with the modes of the transportation, and both areas are still affordable. You can buy a townhouse in Durham for about 600,000, but what can you afford with a $600,000 in downtown Toronto? You'd be lucky if you get a 500 square feet condo.
Yeah.
And without the parking, maybe without even the locker. I would really focus on those two suburbs. Another area that I would really see has continuous growth for the last 4 years is no longer a small urban. It's literally past the million mark population, Ottawa, about a year ago. Ottawa, not more for the reason of the transportation, more for the reason of the employment, is the highest family income in Canada because of the tie to the federal employment. And it's a very large urban center that people can buy there and also live there, and has a great school system and a health system also available there. But those people that they want to really be close to Toronto, Durham and Simcoe County are one of the two areas that perhaps within the next 5 years, you will see the average price of those two areas will become very close to the current average price of what we have in Toronto.
So I've got two more questions for you, Stephen. This is all great. One of the questions came from my database. I had two people reach out saying, they've paid down their home, and they realize that real estate is a great type of asset in terms of investment, and they have no plans on moving, but they've got all this equity, and they're looking at a refinance given the mortgage situation, and they want to buy a second property. Where would you advise people to be looking if they've got modest budget and they want to build a second investment asset in real estate?
If you are a first time, let's call it the way you're describing it, if you are a first time investors, let's call it, that you want to buy, then you have a young family, you paid off your mortgage, and as you described, why would you want to have a paid off mortgage when the banks are offering a 1% mortgage rate?
Right.
I mean, I've been practicing this business for 25 years. My first home, I bought it in 1992 with 11.75% interest rate from the Scotia Bank. And I was so happy it was 11%. But just think about the perspective of the mortgage rate. $1 million in a year only has a $10,000 interest on it. It's basically the banks are giving it to you for free. So first advice, don't think, oh my God, a paid off house, it's a great achievement. It's not a great achievement, because you basically have a paid off house. And yes, the market appreciates, your value of your house goes up, but you are not building your asset. You are not 10 times in your asset. So advice for them is, since they are first time buyers, since they are concerned about the management of the investment property, the tenant and all that, I would tell them the safe bet would be buy a pre-construction condo. Why not? Because it's just their first game. They get themselves into the market, and with the expertise of someone like you and your team, even when their condo is ready, I'm sure you can advise them how to manage it, or you manage it for them. And then from there, they start building the asset. The idea has to be like this. How can I build my asset for next generation, which is my children, or passing it, or even if it's not children are not involved, so I can have a good rate of retirement of the income. So, and real estate is going to appreciate. Historically, we've been through so many crises in the past 50 years. We've been through the 80s interest rate recession. We've been through the 90s of the recession. We've been into mid 2008 of the worst economic recession in the history of the global market. But if you take a look at the last 50 years, per average 7% growth of the appreciation every year. So there is no loss, guaranteed there is no loss. And the way our city is growing with the blink of your eyes, I remember Port Union Road and Lawrence, a townhouse in 1992, I bought it for $181,000. I was talking to a fellow a few nights ago about the market in Guelph, Ontario. Guelph from Toronto is about an hour and 20 minutes drive. It's not even Durham. And I said, what's the average price of the home in Guelph? 6.25. So look at it. From 1992, 28 years ago to now, look at the rate of the growth, what's happening. Nobody would predict it. So right now, the predictability is a lot easier. With also the new policies with the federal government, Ravi, they are really expanding the immigration policies. For the next 3 years. They want to bring 1.2 million people into Canada. And historically, 35% of those people will settle in GTA. So be smart. If you have an equity in your existing home, buy a second property. Don't even think about it twice.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I'm certainly practicing that myself. I think the pre-construction condo market is, like you said, it's really easy, right? You can, no tenants, no tenant placement, no property management, literally just write your checks and wait. And historically, they have appreciated. And then for me, I also like the idea. I think the next property for us might be a small, manageable, single tenant, perhaps townhouse or something like that in Durham region, just because I see the equity gains there. May not be the most cash flow profitable, but it might because rents are going up. Steve, this has been great. I wanted switch for sort of this last couple of minutes here, and I want some what I call bold predictions. All right. We're going to try and do this numerically and not holding you to anything, but
That's okay.
let's go for a couple numbers. All right. So
Okay.
the first number, how many ends or how many trades do you think will be recorded this year on the Toronto Real Estate Board?
So before I answer this question, so I predict that 2021 will be a total crazy madness real estate buzz, very similar to the spring of the 2017. So I'm very confident about that because of what I see. Answering your question, I do believe that in 2021, we will go back surpassing the 100,000 mark transaction in TREP. We probably will do about 105,000 transaction.
Okay. What do you think will be the percentage increase in price 416 freehold home?
It will be a single digit. It will not be a double digit. It probably will be anywhere between a range of about 7 to 9%.
Good. What do you think will be the percentage increase or decrease in price 416 condo market?
Condo market will be again single digit, but it will be in the plus, not the minus, and perhaps anywhere between about 4 to 7.
And we talked about Durham region. What is a rough projection of price appreciation, single family dwelling Durham region?
Double digit, anywhere between about 14 to 17%.
Good. And what do we think will be overall for the entire TREB percentage change in price this year?
416 will be a single digit up, probably will be, as I said, anywhere between about 7 to 9%. Suburb 905 area, I call it, for sure, double digits. Some area will go even over 20% increase. Condo market activity will be in a double digit activity. Activity will go up. Prices will go moderately. And the reason the prices will go up moderately, it's all depend on the rollout of the vaccine. I firmly believe by sometimes in August and September, the society will start feel going back to normal. And because it's August and September, so we lose the 3/4 of the year. So you will see the biggest push for a condo market for reopening of the immigrants coming back, foreign student coming back. And then you will see the last quarter of the 2021, the biggest gain of the condo market, which probably will be anywhere between about 5 to 7%.
And then in terms of just sort of the last one here, I wanted to ask if you were advising someone like myself or other real estate professionals or you know the people in the industry when they're advising their clients, what would be the advice that you'd be giving them in terms of how to prepare? Oh, sorry, before we get to that, interest rates. What do we think the Bank of Canada is going to do, and what do we think we'll see in terms of the interest rate environment?
Government has no other alternative that keep the positive momentum and built up confidence. Therefore, for 2021, you will not see any changes with the Bank of Canada's interest rate. You will probably see if everything really become nice, comfortable by September, you will see sometimes in the first quarter or second quarter of the 2022, small quarter base increase in the Bank of Canada's base rate. And therefore, even if they go up in 2022, they will not go up in a high, fast trajectory. They will go probably quarter basis on every quarter. Still in 2022, we will be very low on the interest rate. Be prepared, sometimes early 2023, we will be back to the pre-COVID interest rate, meaning sometimes end of 2022 to 2023, still the 5 years mortgage become around, let's say 3% mark versus what is it right now, 1.5.
Steve, thanks so much for today. I think you know the key things that we talked about. We're I think we're rounding third base on this pandemic. The pandemic's not going to be here forever. It is here right now. We are in a government lockdown in you know the province of Ontario, but there's confidence, there's immigration, there's interest rate environment, there's borrowing capacity, there's stimulus, there's government management, there's a vaccine. I think it's going to be a busy year too. If anybody wants to find you on social or you know reach out to you about you know careers in real estate, how can they find you?
Very easy. I'm on Facebook, Steve Tabrizi. I'm on Instagram, the same way, Steve Tabrizi. My email is very simple, steve@remaxhallmark.com. And I love text. I like Messenger. So send me a message, send me a quick message. I'll be more than happy to connect with you. You know, again, thanks for the opportunity for inviting me and sharing the insight with the public, with your database, your clients. And then we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Take care.